It's not my intention to tell you what to do, but to explain how I came to write this webinar, because I work individually with children, having taught in London for 30 years, and seeing that children can easily go off track for all sorts of reasons. And I wanted them to be able to be engaged. And I came after the pandemic, I moved to Southend, and I still work with children here, but I've had clients telling me sometimes that the children didn't have catch up after the pandemic and they were expected to hit the ground running, and sometimes they're falling behind. So 6 weeks sorted came about to help parents understand how they can engage the children during the holiday so that they don't slide back in the 6 weeks, because we saw um, in, whoops, where's the, sorry, I'm trying to change, saw that children seemed to go backwards during the pandemic when we were in lockdown. So a few facts. School happens for 190 days a year, and no school happens for 175. That's almost half. So we have 48% of the time your child or your children are not at school. And there's a whole heap of stuff that children need to learn, as we know, that there just isn't time to teach in school. And I was well aware of that as a teacher, really busy with the curriculum and what I had to do. And often I would find there were things children needed that parents could easily do. So I thought I would focus on that. Now, summer learning loss. This has become more well known since the pandemic. On average, children can lose up to a month of school year learning during the summer holiday. So, of course, that sets them back, and they have to have a few weeks to catch up once they go back to school. Summer learning loss is not a new thing. Basically, when a child is learning something, they create the pathways in the brain, and those are sealed with a substance called myelin when there's been enough repetition. Of course, if they're not sealed before the summer holiday, then those neural pathways will fade. And that's why they appear to have gone backwards. It's just they have to pick up the pace again to get going. So summer programs were put in place, and you may be signing your children up to some summer programs, but it's not that hard to continue it yourselves as well when you know what to focus on. So, core skills. This is something we all have. We may be good at some and not good at others, but these are the skills we need for success in life and in school. Self-control is the first one I teach with children, that impulse control. Focus and attention, desperately needed for school, not always mastered. That's another one that I teach. And I'm going to show you how to do this. Organization. The child who is organized, who is focused, who has good self-control is the child that will do better in school, obviously. Working memory. That just means, can your child remember and follow multi-step instructions? You know how it is. You tell them to go upstairs, brush their teeth, put their pajamas on, do this, do that, come back down for some hot chocolate or something, and they go upstairs and you find them 20 minutes later playing with Lego on the bedroom floor because they've forgotten. So we work on memory skills so that children, and these you can factor into your summer holiday. Planning. Planning is the key to everything. The wonderful thing about the summer holiday is it's a fixed length of time. You know that you've got that amount of time. And so you can make a plan, and it is well worth spending an hour or two by yourself before the holiday thinking it through, because there's nothing worse than suddenly finding something you had thought was going to happen doesn't happen and you're left with a group of children, even if they are your own, and you've got nothing for them to do. Time management is another skill that the children need to learn. And there are lots of activities you can do to help them with this. And critical thinking. These are the first 7 core skills for primary that the secondary schools hope the children have got, but when they run into difficulty in secondary school, the weakness will be in there. It's called executive function. Any of you in education will know. These are the executive function skills. And yes, they can be taught at home. They can be taught in the holidays. So those are the ones I want you to focus on when you're thinking through, what am I going to do this summer? Then this is what your child wants. They actually don't want to sit all day on a laptop or on an iPad. They don't want to be eating ice cream and going hysterical all the time. They want to help. They want to have achievements recognised. They want to feel grown up. And there's nothing quite like helping an adult and being held responsible for something that makes them feel grown up. They want to feel important. And I often say to clients who've got children who are not behaving very well, have they got a time with you once every 2 weeks that is just you and them? Because we are all time poor. We are all incredibly busy. And you can think when your child is demanding attention that they've got your attention. But what they want is you to say, I choose to be with you for this period of time. So they want to feel important and they don't mind if it isn't very often. I had a client once who would book appointments with each of her children for half a day a month. And they were happy with that. They would not demand time otherwise. And of course, she saw them beside, but they knew that they were going to have that time. They want to feel they have some control. So I'm going to encourage you, when you've had a think about what you would like to achieve this summer with your children, I'm going to encourage you to include them in part of the planning. And then they want to be taken seriously, as you know. So yes, have their ideas, get their ideas and include them in the plan, because when they're engaged, they are much better behaved, they have more self-control, and you can congratulate them for that. Now, first thing, get a resource box together. What are you going to do on wet days? What are you going to do when you've got half an hour spare? What are you going to have a think? In the resource box, which your children can put together, get them to gather everything from around the house. You'll have most of it. Make yourself a list. And you'll see here, I've got disposable camera on mine. That's for a specific reason, not somebody's iPhone, a disposable camera. That's another part of feeling important, but I'll come on to that. And put everything you need in one place and make your child responsible for looking after it, making sure it goes back. That's their job for the summer holiday. Or if you've several children, give them a week when they are responsible for the resource box. I've also put a map of the area local to you, because there are lots of activities you can do in the holiday in a spare afternoon, which can involve a map, which will help teach them map reading. So I strongly recommend that you get your resource box together before the holiday. You don't have to spend too much money on it, if any. Just gather the things from around the house, because nothing worse than saying, let's all do X, Y, or Z. You'll all need a pencil and you can't find a pencil. You can't find a sharp pencil. So make a list of everyday jobs. Now, I have written a book called 6 Weeks Sorted. It's an ebook, which I will tell you about at the end. But I made a list of about 50 jobs. So things like this: tidy away the breakfast things, and tell your child, I want you to tidy away the breakfast things, because then you will learn to be better organized, or then you will learn to be more responsible, and give them a personal reason for why they should do it, a personal growing up reason, like you'll be better organized and your teacher will be impressed when you go back to school, or go outside and hop for 30 hops. You're learning self-control. Can you hop for 30 hops? And they like to challenge themselves. Plant a seed. There you're building their knowledge. They're gathering reference. And the weakness when it comes to SATs or 11 plus or any of the exams that they come to, the weakness is always general knowledge. It's reference. So during the holiday, I'm going to encourage you to deliberately focus on building their vocabulary, deliberately focus on different ways to build their vocabulary, which we'll come to. So planting a seed, you're building their knowledge. Make your bed, personal responsibility. If they haven't yet learned to make their bed, show them and explain that this is something you want them to do. Practice a timetable for 3 minutes and actually use a timer. I always time activities so that they're not going, oh, how much longer? And you say, we're only going to do this for this length of time. They will have a much better attitude. And I'm not trying to keep them away from iPads completely, because I know that children love doing what they do, watching YouTube or whatever it is they're doing. But have it timed. Have it timed and tell them before the holiday, this is your plan. This is how you want it to be. And I always suggest you have 3 jobs that are definite. So every day you're going to encourage them to put their clothes away or make their bed or put the dishes in the sink or whatever. So you choose 3 jobs that they have to do every day before they can do any other thing that they want to do. And then cut out a whole selection of little jobs like the ones here on screen, that they can choose up to 5 other jobs, or however many you say, that they are going to do that day before they get their free time. And this will help you teach them skills. It will help them feel responsible. It will help them to feel important and like they're helping, and you'll get lots of little jobs done. So win-win. So make a list of everyday jobs. If you sit down with a cup of tea tonight or a glass of wine or whatever your tipple is and just brainstorm all the little jobs that your children could do, and then cut them out on a piece of paper or cut them out off a piece of paper. Then for the 6 weeks, have a focus. I have chosen, if you're going away for a week, our holiday destination as the focus. Now for this, you can give or make a scrapbook with your child and tell them they're going to have a disposable camera, and you're going to let them take any 3 pictures a day. They're going to use their scrapbook as like a diary or a memory of this experience wherever you're going. You can give them a small budget and say, I'm going to give you £5 for the whole holiday, and it is to be spent on the holiday, but you've got to tell me what you're spending it on. That way you're encouraging them to start budgeting. And you can even tell them what it's for. It's not for sweets. It might be postcards. It might be a little souvenir. It might be something special that you think would be nice to bring home, or a little gift for somebody. But you set the budget. You explain the ground rules. It's not to be wasted. It's not to be spent on X, Y, or Z. tell them what it's for, and then ask them to create a budget for it, so that at the end of the holiday you want to see what they did with the money. And you can tell if it is for sweets, fine, but tell them what to do with it and ask them to record it. Look on a map and mark where they're going on holiday, where you're going, and talk to them about maps and information that we get from maps, because there isn't enough time sometimes in school to go over things enough with children in a practical way. And by doing this, you're going to be supporting their school, you're going to be supporting their learning, because the whole aim for every teacher and every parent is that by the time they get to 21, they're a fully fledged, fully capable adult, and we're all working for the same end. So collect leaflets of places you visit, and these can be used to stick in. You could say you can take it and show your new teacher. When you finished your scrapbook, you can do a little diary of each day to keep them writing, so that they don't lose the skills that they've got from school already. And then keep a record of new foods eaten, and make sure you try a traditional dish if you're going overseas or anywhere. Make sure you try, I mean, there are regional dishes, aren't there, here, like Cornish pasties and things like that. So make sure you try a traditional dish and have a discussion. Have a discussion about whether they like it. If they don't like it, why don't they like it? Never let them go, I didn't like that, without some explanation, because there will come a point where they will be in an interview situation in the future. And when they get into that, it doesn't matter what they say. What matters is the reasoning they give, because we know in interview situations, the people are looking at how we think. So I hope I'm not going too fast, but focus of the week. Now, in my book, I know I made the first week all about penguins because we've got the penguin trail through Southend. And you can do the penguin trail for the first week and say, this week we're going to focus on penguins. You could then go to the aquarium and see the penguins there. You could make a model penguin at home. You can draw penguins, decorate your own penguin. And all of this is helping their skills and helping their language, because you're talking to them about it as well. So have a focus for each week. I can't remember all the focuses that I focus. I'm an English teacher as well. I can't remember each of the 6 weeks now off the top of my head. I actually put 9 weeks in my book, but I know one of them was books, because of all the different genre that children need to be familiar with by the time they get to GCSE. And I know they'll cover them in school, but the more reinforcement you can do at home in the holidays, the more you are helping your child to remain engaged in school. And if you can get ahead of the game, it really supports the teaching staff in the next year. So have your focus of the week. Then, oops, sorry, did I go too far? Brainstorm your theme. So if it's books, where can you visit? Libraries, bookshops, any authors that are famous authors, Dickens lived here, or Wordsworth, if you're going to the Lake District, Wordsworth lived. Where can you visit to do with books, if it was books? What knowledge can you teach? Go to the British Library in London for a trip, and you can teach them about the printing press, the Caxton printing press, or talk to them about general things in the world, so that they are seeing how their education works in the world. What skill can you boost? You could do a family story. You could say, this week we're going to work on a family story. Each of us is going to write something for the beginning. And then you all, mum, dad, children, have a piece of paper and you write a beginning. and you include everybody's beginning. It's quite fun. What can you talk about to do with books? Giving an opinion on a book beyond, as I said, beyond, I didn't like that. It was boring. Try and get more language out of your child. And I know you will be working probably through the holiday, at least for some of it, if not all of it. And as long as you plan it ahead, you can say, I'm going to spend 2 hours on a Saturday, 2 hours on a Sunday, half an hour after I finish work, just focus on a project for the week. And you'd be amazed how much you can get done when it is planned. And then what new thing can you try? Is there a different type of book? There are those books where you start and you have, if you think one thing, you go to page 60, and if you think something else, you go to page 75, and it chases you all through the book. Is there a new kind of book? There's name's gone off the top of my head, but there are lots of different puzzle books that you can find. Graham Base, I think his name is. Graham Base does very sophisticated puzzle books, which are really fun. They're picture books. Can you create a book and get it published, or print it, so that your child feels they're achieving something, as well as going through gathering knowledge and developing their skills. So where can you visit? And it might be, I think one of the themes I had, or I have in the book, is foods we eat. And focus, because I didn't want it to cost a lot of money, but you can take them to the supermarket. You could take them out to a particular type of restaurant. You could take them to visit a farm. You can take them just for a drive in the countryside and see what crops can you see growing. And it's not to do all of this, but think, if you've got a theme of food, where can you visit? What knowledge can you teach? You could teach about regional food. You can teach about areas of the country where foods grow. I remember when I was a class teacher, I had a year 4 class, and I had to teach farming, and I thought, oh, how am I going to do this? And so we developed a little farm in the grounds of the school. I mean, at the back, it was pretty awful soil, but we made these little fields, and we got a local farmer to come and to educate the children about the different crops he grew. And there are lots of places now where you can go and visit, but go with purpose, not just let's go here for the day. Have a theme that allows you to expand that, so that your child gets more from it, learns more from it, and develops skills from it. Cooking skills, the skills you can boost if they're doing food. Can they do a blending activity in the kitchen? Get out all the spices, get out all the herbs, and say, okay, you've got 2 eggs and all these spices. What are you going to try? Or bits of, toast. Try different flavors. Which ones do you like? Which ones don't you like? What can you talk about? Ask your child what foods they like, what flavors they like. I know you probably already know, but there might be more that you don't. And ask them, perhaps grow some herbs and taste them, because they grow quite quickly. And new things to try, new mixes of food. I know we made some pretty disgusting mixes of food when we did it in the classroom, but we also came up with some nice flavors. So, and you can do drawing, draw the insides of fruits. One of the activities I do sometimes with a child to show them how very clever they are is to say, write down everything you know, or to make it easier, write down 20 things you know for sure about a banana. If I ask you to do that, and I always say to them, I'll start you off, it's yellow. And then you go through everything you know about a banana. I had 2 children who went into competition with each other to try and get the most things they knew about a banana. And we ended up with 46 things that we all know for sure about a banana. So you can challenge your children later today and say, how many things do you know about a banana? They go, oh, I don't know. But it's quite fun to do that kind of activity. So brainstorm your theme so that you know in advance, a thing a day, one visit, one bit of knowledge, one skill to keep them engaged. Now, the other resource that you have at your disposal, Days of the Year, daysoftheyear.com. August the 3rd is National Watermelon Day. Make it a feast. Eat some watermelon. Find out where and how watermelons grow. How are they priced? By slice, by whole watermelon. Plant some watermelon seeds in a pot. Make a bracelet from watermelon seeds. Make a salad. Then talk about all the different types of melon and how they grow. It's quite good fun to grow melons. Um, and and that's just August the 3rd. If you go through, spend half an hour this evening, if you've got half an hour when the children have gone to bed, and flip through the days of the year. I've got them all in my book that cover the summer holiday with and brainstorm those. Where can you go? What can you teach them? What skill can you focus on? Can you give them some new experience that they haven't had before? Because when you go back to school in September, you want them to be bright, not not feeling sluggish, but bright and engaged with lots to talk about and lots of new knowledge. And that is the link for my book, which is an ebook, which has 9 weeks with lots of ideas in, with all the different dates.